I'm really am scared to do this. Because after this, value might be gone forever. I have so lucky enough to get this thing new in box. And it's actually a new character to finally obtain in my collection. It is that. Trackmaster Generation 1 Hit Toys, Freddie and Ling, Greatest Moments 2-pack. This is my first time I obtained Freddie in my possession. I never had him in my entire life, so this is new to me. So, let's begin with this product, shall we? Now, this one is, of course, from the episode Ling, where we have this flatbed here, and we have Freddie. It's the good image of Freddie. I know it's not really the best, because it is dark, because I'm recording this in my closet. Ling. Greatest moments. And here is the back here, which shows you all the other engines that were released at this time. When this was released in 2008, they were all released at the same year. But we'll start with the first row here, which were released in early 2008. This one is, as you can see, is Duncan Does It All, which contains the first Muddy Duncan. There were two Muddy Duncans that were released. This was the first one, from Duncan Does It All. It has mud splats on the face, the boiler, the footplate, and the bottom part of his cab. The second Muddy Duncan was from Duncan and the Runaway Elephant, and that only had like mud splats on the boiler and on the footplate. Duncan's carrying a slate car that has cows in it. Next up is Sir Handel in Charge, which is him covered in leaves, and a forest log flatbed that is carrying logs, and Skarloey storms through, which is supposed to have like water drops on the Skarloey, mainly on here and here. And he's also carrying a slate car with sheep. Now we go into here for the ones from late 2008. We have Percy's Chocolate Crunch from the same episode, and he has carrying a chocolate syrup tanker. And that's the same one that is on the Trucks and Tracks pack of Mr. Jolly's Chocolate Factory. So that's the same thing. That one is Rheneas and the Dinosaur, which indeed was the very first release of Rheneas. He was first released in this pack. And of course there's this one, which you're seeing right here, Freddie and Ling. If you actually look carefully at the small of Freddie, it's actually the one with the white, it's the Tomy version. Yeah, this is the Tomy version of Freddie, because it has the gray switch. And also, Rheneas actually has the tan traction tires, which will be from Tomy. And here's the underneath here. It says 2008, this product was released. 2008 Hit Toys. Boy, I'm too scared to open this because of how rare this thing is. But the thing is, I don't have an actual model of Fearless Freddy, so I might ruin its value now, but I just want to have a model of Freddy in my possession. And I don't have a model, and I'm glad I got my model this way. Oh. 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 Okay. Okay, oh gosh, okay. Hold on. Okay, I did got it out. Okay. On you go. Alright. And out comes... Oh boy. Anything from Hit Toys. A nice pamphlet. Friendly faces, fun places. And... the good old days of the Barry compartments. Now, Freddie shall now leave this package. Okay, here it comes. The case comes off. No tearing off anything. He's not holding by anything. Alright, now on to Freddie himself. Alright, now let's go ahead and get a closer look at Freddie. I have never received my model of Freddie, as I've already explained, so this is my first time getting Freddie, and I actually want to get Freddie this way with the bicycle. So, let me explain. Freddie was released back in 2007. First under Tomy, which was the one who was the original manufacturer of this, was Tomy. And then, of course, that was made in early 2007. As in, eventually in late 2007, everything outside Japan was then purchased by Hit Toys. And thus, Hit Toys has gone through the changes of giving it the white switch and, of course, the gray traction tires. See under here, made in China, that's the, where you open up the Barry compartment, is Fearless Freddie Hit Toy Company. And of course, the model doesn't look really accurate, obviously, because this is how they fit the motor inside, but obviously they didn't know how to do a good job of it, and this is the closest option. Unfortunately, because of that, the cab is a little bit too long. Here's his face. One thing of trivia about Fearless Freddie is that he's actually Ivo Hugh. Yes, he's actually meant to be Ivo Hugh. He's the same basis. And frankly enough, he was meant to be Ivo Hugh in the television series. But the production crew eventually felt he's a little bit too confusing, and thus he had to go through a name change and call it Freddie. But this is technically Ivo Hugh. It is meant to be the basis for it. There's the back. Unfortunately, I do not have that turntable that I can spin around the product out and show you all of it without holding my hands. I don't have that anymore. The first time getting Freddie in my possession is a lot good. Okay. Now we have this flatbed here that has Mr. Percival's bicycle. I kind of love the attention to detail that I actually added some of the bells that played out in the episode Ding-a-Ling. Of course, this is meant to be from that episode. So, Freddie was carrying the flatbed that carries Mr. Percival's bicycle. And here's that bicycle in full glory. Of course, Mr. Percival is the one that drives the bike, and Sir Topham Hatt carries a vehicle. Of course, there's a take-along version of both, which, for Mr. Percival, is a lot more confusing, because Mr. Percival is driving Sir Topham Hatt's car, and it was painted red. That's the take-along version. Thing is, he doesn't ride a car. It's a bicycle. I love the stand that it's on. Yeah, like I said, it has all the bells that you saw in the episode. And there's these little studs right there because it clips into here. So it goes and clips like this, and that stays intact. And also, there's this foghorn, which, of course, it's not a new one, as Thomas said in the episode. It's not new. It's actually just been restored. And thus, you got this combo. Very, very nice. Here, 2008. That's, of course, the day this was made in. Here's this one, which is the pamphlet, which is iconic to hit toys, as they will always release these pamphlets. This one is the one from early 2008, as it says, "Friendly faces, fun places. A world of imagination is right around the bend. Whether action outsenses for their favorite Thomas and Friends shows, or dreaming of their own incredible adventures, it's easy for little engineers to put their favorite stories into motion with Trackmaster Railway Systems." Boy, when was the last time I heard that out loud? Of course, this was out in 2008. As you can see, here were the all the engines that were released at that time. We have, well, that's Whiff, Billy, and Hector. I got Billy and Whiff, I didn't have Hector. And that's also the first run Hector, where he had Oliver's coach. The second run has a forest log flatbed. So let's get to know each other. And they also have these buffers here with signs here. This one says engine yard, but some of those signs with those locations were never released. Some didn't. And here's also what's new for early 2008. Duncan Does It Alls are handled in charge, and Scarlet storms through, sharing their greatest moments. And there's the buffers right there saying the Tidmouth Sheds. And next to that we have Thomas at Tidmouth Sheds. Of course, some of these are actually just prototypes, like what you're seeing here. This is obviously just a prototype of the R.C. Thomas and Harold. Showing right there. There's a sign right there saying the Brandon Docks, which is on the next page. That was also released, but of course these were released in 2007. This is to Maythwaite Station, which of course it was called Thomas at the Station. That's what it was called. The sign there says Lumberyard, and there was Scarloey at the Lumberyard. There. And also it says the Knapford Station, but the next page doesn't mention Knapford Station. Nope. It actually mentions the RC engines that were released at the time. And these are the ones that come with the actual tanker, or actual 3-packs as they were released. There's the remote control right there. And this kid is actually playing with the RC James, which he comes with the sort of fuel tanker. And there's the RC Thomas that comes with the ice van, and the RC Tired Percy, that's a tired face, and also carrying a brake van. Of course, these are the first runs. As the second runs, they have removed the additional cargo. So now it's just Thomas and the van, Percy and the coach, and James alone. Of course, the middle, some things in the middle, like here, carry the Barrys. And at the back here, there's engines and more. When there is work to be done, Thomas and his friends are ready to help. Collect them all and create your own useful crew. And what was new for early 2008, there was Caroline, Madge, Terrence, Percy, Arthur, Toby, Spencer, James, Molly, and Emily. Some were in single packs, some were in 2-packs, and some were in 3-packs. Those are the new ones, was the road crew. There's a Mountain of Track, where that's Ellsbridge Station, where it can, all that right there can fit inside that tunnel. And put it right there. This is manufactured in 2007. Discover even more with ThomasTrackmaster.com, which doesn't exist. You could still use blue tracks. Of course, it's Tomy tracks with those good adapters. Everyone remembers those. And Engines and Escapades on DVD. Man, this is such a good trip back in time. Wish everything was kept like this. Next, we have this, which is actually the instructions to install the batteries in these engines. Of course, this one says Tit Toys 2008, so this one is releasing the stuff that was made at the time. In 2008. Of course, this was actually first made by Tomy, but then Hit Toys continued with it. Here it is. Wow, this really is bringing back memories. So let's begin. There actually are engines that you need a screwdriver, and yet there are some that you don't need a screwdriver. Of course, nowadays that's not allowed. Everything needs to have a screwdriver because of, the dangers of batteries. So with that, all this was all simplified to all have a screwdriver. But some of these, that's not necessary. For here, we start with Thomas, Percy, Stephanie, Whiff, Rheneas, Stanley, and Lady. As these don't need a screwdriver, there are two tabs where you squeeze both sides. Well, first you need to, on Thomas, Stephanie, Lady, you have to turn the middle wheels, then you squeeze in both sides, and the cover comes off. For Percy, well, actually, Thomas and Stephanie, you have those wheels you need to turn. Percy and Lady, there are two levers, which you need to do. Rheneas, Stanley, and Whiff doesn't need that middle wheel treatment because they're fixed in. And there's small little indents on those where you can just squeeze both sides and there you go. And they all need a AA battery. For Gordon, Henry, Edward, James, the battery goes in their tenders. They don't need a screwdriver. You just need to unclip the coal and the battery is put in. And they need a Type C battery. For these engines, Diesel 10, Diesel, Mavis, Splatter, Dodge, Boko, Toby, and Duck. They use a Type C battery. They don't need a screwdriver, as you can squeeze both sides in right there. And here is Mighty Mac. Mighty Mac needs a screwdriver because it's coach driven, and that one needs a screwdriver, obviously. It's a Type AA battery. Pull up and rotate engine to switch faces. That was a very clever idea for Tomy to think of that. There's Madge, which needs a AAA battery, and it needs a screwdriver to unscrew the top, and the switch is at the bottom. And here is Hank. Hank needs a Type AA battery. He doesn't need a screwdriver. Just like Gordon, Henry, Edward, and James, you just unclip the coal compartment, and the battery goes in there. Now here's the back. Well, all these engines need a screwdriver. This one, we have this road crew, Bulgy, Terrence, Bertie, Caroline, Jack, Ned, and Alfie. Alfie was only sold in Canada. They all need a screwdriver, and they take a Type AAA battery. We have Rocky right here, which also needs a AAA battery, and it needs a screwdriver regardless. It goes in there, and there's on. Oh, it's a three-way switch. One goes makes the crane go up, one makes the crane go down, and it's off in the middle. And these are ones that do need AA batteries and also needs a screwdriver. We have Proteus, Bill/Ben, Dennis, Duncan, Billy, Arthur, Elizabeth, Scarloey, Salty, Rusty, Fearless Freddie, Rosie, Sir Handel, Flora, Spencer, Neville, Donald, and Douglas. Oh, goodness. They use the same type of drive unit as flat drive. Elizabeth is the one that is a road crew, but it runs on a AA. It says here for Arthur, screw is towards the rear of the engine, as you can see there. There is Harvey right here, which needs a screwdriver. This one is coach driven. It needs a Type C battery to go right there. And these other tender driven engines, Molly, Murdoch, and Emily, they need a screwdriver to fit the battery inside their tenders. But the reason why Emily has her own section and Murdoch and Molly have their own section is because the screw for Murdoch and Molly is at the front of the tender, and for Emily, the screw is at the back. Man, I have not seen this in years. My first time seeing this. And I'm so glad that I managed to finally got one. I finally got one back. And it's still amazing. Alright, now to put the battery in, this is the screw you need to open. We got this. That brings back old memories. I'm going to put the battery in. It's going to be AA type. Now, it's not going to turn on instantly. I'm probably going to need to do some tapping, which is obvious. There you go. Oh, that old classic Tomy Trackmaster Gen 1 sound. Ain't that sweet to listen to. Now, later on, I'm going to see if I can get the green and white coaches. So I can have at least have a completed 3-pack Freddie. But as of now, I'll put this on a small little layout that I have made. Okay, so here is the layout as you can see. It's a small little layout, but I got everything all done. You might hear some noise in the background, but that's probably because my father and my stepbrother are watching television. So I'm staying as far away as I can from this. Here we go. Sure, I kind of ruined its value now that I took it out of the box. I don't have a model Freddie for me to test with, so this is my first time getting Freddie. And I wanted to get Freddie this way, with the Mr. Percival's bicycle. And lo and behold, I finally got my own model of Freddie. I'll see if I can get the coaches, so I can have a more completed version of Freddie. That's going to be it for this video. I'm sorry for wrecking a new in-box value, but sometimes temptation has outgot you in the end. Thank you for watching.